Bosses, they are designed to be a climactic battle after working your way through hordes of enemies, not only for the player to experience a power trip, but to also drive some of the more narrative focused elements of a video game, whether it be emotional, exhilaration, or satisfaction. Halo, on the other hand, has had some very strange experiences when it comes to boss battles. Some utterly forgettable that you disregard them as a joke, others on an epic scale that you would love to relive, and those, to be honest, that weren't particularly fun and that were repeated multiple times. We're looking at you, Halo 5. So why on earth would this be any different when it comes to Halo Infinite? It's a good question. Well, the grapple shot ushers in new opportunities for gameplay and bosses in Halo Infinite, and if utilised correctly, there's going to be some great things ahead, and that's exactly what we're going to discuss in today's video.
Ultimate Halo.
Hey up lads and lasses, Fletch here from Ultimate Halo, and if you love Halo like I do, I'd really appreciate you leaving a subscription down below, and to be honest, it'd just mean the world if you could help me hit 100,000 subscribers. It's such a dream. We're nearly there. So enough with the formalities and let's grapple with today's topic. You get it? First of all, I think we need a very brief history lesson on Halo bosses. Now, in Halo Combat Evolved, they weren't really a thing, but in Halo 2, Bungie really toyed with the idea of you taking on the big dogs. First it was the Heretic Leader whilst playing as the Arbiter, then the Prophet of Regret as Master Chief, and then finally Tartarus on the final mission as the Arbiter. All of these bosses vary in quality, but compared to other video game franchises, I am strong in the opinion that none of them are actually great bosses. Regret is more of a quick time event, the Heretic Leader is just multiple elites floating around, and Tartarus is probably the best, utilising shields and timing and the verticality of the platforms to ensure player survival. Moving on to Halo 3, Brute Chieftains were almost mini-bosses, a step in the right direction where they utilised equipment to their advantage. You fight 343 Guilty Spark at the end of the game, which was mediocre at best, and for the absolute highlight of any Halo video game boss, it is of course the Scarab, which I assume Halo fans will likely share the same opinion. But the Scarab is unique in that it can be killed in so many different ways using the sandbox the game gives you, which in essence is what Halo's gameplay is all about. Then in Halo 4 you have the Lich and also the Didact. I don't really class either of those as bosses because they're very linear, and the Didact in particular is pretty much just a quick time event. Halo Reach, I don't really think that has any bosses at all. You could class the Gueta as a boss, but I don't really class them in that domain. And lastly, Halo 5, whilst I respect some of the elements 343 tried to do with the Warden Eternal, it's hard to ignore the blatant padding by them, having them used multiple times, as well as he falls into a lot of the same tricks his previous bosses have, just being a bullet sponge with a weak spot at the back. Apologies if I have missed anything off there, but you could argue Hunters and the Halo 2 Scarab were, but I don't think they quite cut it for me personally. So how exactly can this be done? How can we make bosses better in Halo Infinite? We are going to use a lot of imagination work, and I'm going to try and visualize it on screen, but imagine a much larger enemy, or even just a bigger Scarab. So your grapple shots can only get you so far, so it's important to elevate yourself to particular areas so you can start to inflict some damage. So let's say at the base of the feet there's no damage taken, but higher up it does take damage. You can grapple up to somewhere high, pick up a fusion coil, and then wait for your moment to leave destruction. That's one leg down. Now that's the Scarab stopped, much like in Halo 3. But maybe you can break the shell if it looks like a banished Scarab with explosives. Then you can potentially find a vehicle or find an elevated part of the map using the grapple hook to make sure you can jump down into the gap that you've caused in the Scarab. Maybe, if you cause enough damage to the body, it opens up a window of opportunity for fans to open, and you can grapple inside with enough skill and timing. Another boss idea could be a giant hunter that shows weak spots after you pull off their armor using the grapple shot, which ultimately removes their defense, creates weak spots, and allows you to kill them. You might have noticed that a lot of these ideas borrow heavily from existing gameplay scenarios from the past, but add extra depth to what the possibilities are. Whereas many other additions such as Spartan abilities couldn't really interact with enemies in the same way, but they more just impacted how you move throughout the world. I do draw a lot of inspiration from the Zelda games in this department. They ensure that a combination of skill, creativity and timing all factor into the success, and trial and error is often needed to get it correct, which is truly how it should be in my opinion, and it gives some satisfaction to the player when they're successful in battle. Now who knows whether or not any of this will come to fruition, but I think 343 needs to look into this for future updates if they haven't already. The bullet sponge focus of Halo 5 for example isn't creative or satisfying, it really does feel like a grind. This could be 343's big chance to make some changes to bosses going forward, and then hopefully they can make the most of the new additions to the sandbox. But what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Do you enjoy boss battles, and do you think that they're going to be long in Halo Infinite? Let me know. Once again, my name is Jack Fletcher, and I will see you next time on the one and the only Ultimate Halo.
Subscribe now to Ultimate Halo for more unfriggin' believable Halo content.